Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Taking Up Space, a Michelle A. Mayer podcast. Always excited about coming forward, y'all. Today is absolutely no different. How are you all doing today? I hope you're doing well. I hope you're firing off on all cylinders. I hope you are so engrossed in doing your thing that you just pondering your own path and you're not worried about what somebody else is doing. I want to come on today and I want to speak to not focusing so much on trusting other people. I had spoken to my dad. My dad is my biggest cheerleader, y'all. I'll probably start crying when I talk about my dad. But he's my biggest cheerleader in life. And I can always get the truth from my dad. My dad always sees the bright side of whatever situation I may be in. He always gives me the benefit of the doubt. And, as a person in life, you need somebody in your corner like that. Every time I talk about my dad, I probably end up crying, y'all. So don't think nothing of it. I'm feminine and so that's just how it is. But he always sees the best perspective when it comes to me. I guess it's because he trusts my decisions. He trusts me as a person. He trusts my decision-making capabilities. And he believes in me. It's important that you have people in your life that really believe in you, regardless to what it looked like. You know what I'm saying? That you give your children the benefit of the doubt. It is so vitally important because in doing so, it really propels them forward in chipping away at whatever it is that they feel like is very overwhelming that they may not even be discussing with you. I was talking to my dad about some stuff, and this is a while ago, and I was talking to him about, feeling like sometimes in life we get to junctions where we feel like, darn, I don't have anybody that I really trust outside of myself and my connection with God. And my dad immediately corrected me when I was communicating this to him in our conversation. And he says, you don't need to trust nobody else but yourself and God. A lot of times we feel like we need this perfect group of people around us that we trust and we know, and we will wait. We will hammer out our stuff on our own and keep other people at bay because we're waiting for these perfect people to show up that we feel as if we trust. Or at least I do. I've done that. And, in speaking with my dad, he brought it home to me that you'll be waiting around forever for that. You will go it alone in every interaction because there's not going to be, there probably will be people that will show up eventually that you feel like you can trust, but there may be something that they do that undermines the credibility of that trust. And now you're back looking for someone with more perfect characteristics because you were beguiled by that other person that you thought, was this miraculous, perfect, trustworthy person. And I'm not talking about love relationships. I'm not speaking to romantic relationships, even though we can, cross-reference those to this conversation as well. But what I'm looking to get you to understand is that as long as you trust you, as long as you are grounded in your own knowing, that knowing that allows you to continue on your path and acquire all that you desire and have in mind for yourself in your life while you were potentially waiting on that perfect set of people to come and show up in your life that you could trust. You see, if you're anything like me, you're not waiting around for people to show up so you can act on your goals. I'm not waiting on anybody. I'm acting on my stuff. I'm handling the monsters that are in my life, and I'm keeping them at bay and allowing myself the ability to handle them instead of them handling me. All the while being on the lookout for people, vessels that God will send that are trustworthy. But I want to use history as an example to this. I want to use old world England as an example to this. I know I had did a podcast episode on treachery in the past, and I'm going to incorporate treachery into this conversation with you today. You know, treachery is the act of, or the potential act of, the ideology, premeditated thought that will eventually form into an act, or that is already formed into an act upon someone else to betray them. So treachery is the being guilty of some form of premeditated betrayal. Premeditation is very important when it comes to the word treachery. Treachery, without premeditation, treachery would just be betrayal. It would just be raw, audacious betrayal. But when you add in the premeditative nature to it, when you add in the idea that you had and you set up and focused on and allowed to flower out as it related to that person that you knew, knowing that you were betraying them and that you would continue that process, that in itself is treacherous. And when we look at old world England, you know, we see a lot of that going on, especially during the whole Reformation age, the whole age where England was separating themselves from the Catholic Church. They were looking to form some level of independence, not even some. They were looking to form a distinct break from the Catholic Church. At one time, England was controlled by the Catholic Church, by Rome. And every single thing you needed to do, you had to run it by the Pope. You had to get permission. If you wanted to marry someone outside of a particular family line, bloodline, you had to get it okayed by the Pope. If you wanted to, anything you wanted to do independently, you had to run it by the church, including the king. King Henry VIII, I had to look that up, VIII. I'm not good with Roman numerals, so I hope 8th is the correct number. But King Henry VIII would find this very frustrating. He would be in a situation, what would prompt this whole scenario of events would be King Henry VIII wanting to divorce his wife and marry another woman. Now, this situation didn't come about altogether with this scenario that King Henry VIII had found himself in. England and the people had been wrestling with this for a long time. This was just the head of the wrestle. This is just the climax of the wrestle. They had had enough. And Henry says, I'm just going to go for it. He had counsel. This woman had counseled him, and he was going to do something audacious, which was split from the Roman Catholic Church. All these monarchies, all these systems were based out of your faith in God. This is an old world, even into the new world way of doing things. It is only until now that we really don't see that so much. But like when Jesus came forth and he's dealing with the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the elders and the chief priests of his time, he would find himself caught into this same type of element where you have people within the spiritual system, and the spiritual system is controlling the entire worldview of the people. You could say it had been going on all along from, Joseph to the end of the Old Testament. But at the time that Jesus comes forth, we see individuals that are not of this house placating in roles that were only for people of the house. And we see the laws of God being expanded upon to suit the needs of capitalistic systems. So when we look at England and what they were going through when King Henry VIII decided to split from England, we somewhat see something similar. We see Rome controlling the nations. And we see people protesting this level of control. You couldn't buy land. You couldn't do anything without the green light from Rome. And Rome is thousands of miles away. And so we have this tumultuous time going on where many of the people are looking to break away from Rome, then many of the people are not. You have the political system, the king at the time, looking to spearhead this campaign of breaking away from the church and establishing England as its own monarchy. Establishing the Church of England as its own independent, sovereign church, not dependent upon any help from any other tentacle or any other spiritual tentacle, let's just say that. This in itself would allow England to act as its own independent nation, which in turn at the time was unheard of. So you could see why people would really be for it. They would be definitely looking to back it because it meant independence, and it meant also that a regular person could come into a system and make a powerful name for themselves, whereas before the doors were completely closed. You had to be part of that Roman Catholic system, which was thousands of miles away, in order to partake of it. Now we're bringing it more so to a local level, a localized level, where loyalty and camaraderie reign supreme. And it is definitely about who you know. And it's definitely about what ideology and philosophies you align to in order to garner yourself a seat in this upcoming system. So I said all of that to give you an idea of the backdrop and what's within reach. So if you were a regular person, you had a really good opportunity at hand. You could make a monumental name for yourself, change your life overnight. You would go from a farmer, a peasant, to a noble or a gentry immediately. And so because of this, a lot of treachery is going on. You had so many dynamics going on at this time because the church in itself did not want to give up its power. The Roman Catholic Church did not want to give up its power. And so they were persecuting these Protestant people, these people that were protesting this dynamic, and they're persecuting these people openly. And you had to really be quiet about what you thought and what you felt was what was the right thing to do, because it could cost you a lot. You could be unalived for it. It was a very pivotal time in the history of England. So there was a lot of secrecy. I consider it as the time where, when you were, many of you don't know this, but when I was a kid, we had regular TVs. We didn't have cable. We had antennas on our TVs. And at night, if you went to sleep and you woke up and it was really late at night, you would see a lot of fuzz on your TV screen. Just black and white fuzz, just fuzz, because there was no TV show airing and the networks were all closed. So it's this static fuzz on the screen. And it looked like, if you really watched it, it looked like the black and the white pieces of fuzz were all fighting for dominance on this screen. And it never seemed to be one that would be able to overtake the other. Well, that's what was going on at this time in England. Fuzz. Fighting and vying for position. Openly and indirectly. Because everybody was vying for these positions. And it wasn't about talent as much. A lot of times it was about relationship. A lot of times it was about who you're loyal to, relationship, and philosophy, and audaciousness. So if you have two very talented people vying for the same thing, and they're both loyal and they're both audacious, who gets chosen? It became extremely treacherous. And treacherous is the only word you can use to describe it. Because treachery shows a premeditated, well thought out scheme, plan of action to betray an individual for a particular result. So if you were living in this particular era and within that particular region, you would find yourself not being able to trust people. You would make it seem as if you trust people. You would be polite to people, gregarious, outgoing, openly speak well to people in front of other people. But inwardly, you would be watching like a hawk. All the nuances, all the gestures. You want to hear all the rumors. Because in the rumors, in those people that are speaking all of these different things, you find slithers of truth. You are able to gain levels of knowledge that will allow you to have an upper hand in a situation where it's extremely difficult to have one in. I'm bringing these things up because I led with trust. You know what I mean? I had the conversation with my dad many months ago, and he told me, you don't need to trust anybody but yourself and God. And if that wasn't the truth, if that one sentence did not redirect my philosophy, I don't know what else did. I've always known that. But don't we get to junctions in life where we seem like we forget what we know? We need to hear it again from someone else that we trust or that we love. I knew that I needed to trust myself. I've always known that. I knew that it's me and God all the way, and that's all I need. I've always known that. But in that instance, to hear that, it made the clouds part and the sun come forth in my life. And it put things into perspective. Friends, I'm here to tell you, you will have many people that will come upon you in life. All kinds of personalities. And if you're anything like me, I'm a voyeur. I observe people. I can sit and observe and listen. I can also interact and have fun and joke and laugh. I can sit as a student and learn and then ask questions. But through it all, I'm an observer. So instead of looking for people to trust, observe the personalities that God sends in front of you. Instead of looking for the perfect person to show all the perfect characteristics so that you feel safe in interacting with them, gird yourself in the knowing of God. Gird yourself with high impact and rich experiences in your life so that you feel confident and knowing that you can withstand whatever comes before you. That this person that you are interacting with, surely they might be a gossiper. Okay, you're a gossiper. You like to gossip. Okay. How can this serve me? I know you're a gossiper. There's strength in the fact that I know you like to gossip. You like to sit and talk about people. You make a living out of doing that. If you can live with it, I can too. But how can you and your gossip serve me? When you gossip, is your gossip based on lies? Are you just a liar? I mean, it's a difference from a gossiper and a liar. You know what I mean? A gossiper is someone that goes and he's like a reporter, or she's like a reporter, and she gets all this different types of information from what they consider trusted sources, or even sources in general. And then they're able to filter that information and then regurgitate it. You get into a conversation with someone that likes to gossip. They'll tell you, okay, this is what I heard, and this is what I think. Now you can utilize that gossiper in a way to say, I'm going to allow this individual and what they choose to do with their life to serve me, to give me vital information. Surely they're probably going to go around gossiping about me. I understand this, but I'm willing to take that because I see a benefit in this person and their skill set helping me in my life. I've got to be able to allow this person room in my life in some way or at a distance so that they don't get too close, but then they're not too far away, that they're not useful to me. You go about your life not looking to trust anyone, but looking to find situations in which you can partner with in whatever capacity that can serve you. How do you partner with someone that gossips? They're giving you information, or you hear information by way of them that can serve you. And then they're gaining information of you to assist them in what they choose to do with their life. It's symbiotic. I know many people say, oh, well, gossipers, you shouldn't gossip. And friend, everybody gossips in one way or another. You just have those that make a full-time job of it, and those that do it to certain degrees when they need to. I'm bringing gossip up only because of this situation going on in England, this whole Protestant Reformation, breaking free from Rome scenario going on in England that brought upon a very treacherous environment. It will become so treacherous that families would not be able to trust one another. You couldn't trust anybody. It was extremely treacherous. Henry VIII would bring this on, and then it would go and it would bleed into all of those that came after him. And those that came after him were his children. Throughout all of their reigns as kings or queens of this particular part of the world, they would all try to fine-tune this break from the Catholic Church. And then we get to the place of King James, the man that rewrote the Bible. And at the point of King James, the dust has settled. King Henry and all of his descendants have already broke from the Catholic Church. And they've already made, the dust has settled in this break. And they've made some sort of organization within this break. And then here comes King James. And King James now has translated the church of England has begun to translate scripture from Latin to English. You see, prior to this, everything was in Latin. You couldn't get your Bible and read it. It was in Latin. King James would rewrite a version of the Bible to what we consider the King James version of the Bible today, and in English manuscript, making it so that the common people now could partake more holistically to the biblical ideology. Whereas before, they were at the mercy of other people to interpret scripture for them. Now you can interpret it for yourself. It was a freedom-driven Reformation type of environment that allowed many people freedoms that they did not have prior to. And even in that, you began to see during King James time and then thereafter, England allowing its prisoners to be released from prison and going to America and building a new way of life in America. All of this came about after the split from the Catholic Church. And in that split, great levels of treachery happened. Whenever there's something new coming, friend, you've got to depend on the fact that there will be high levels of treachery. And because there will be high levels of treachery, you will not be able to trust people. Do not get discouraged when people betray you. It is your job to know your environment. It's my job to know my environment, whether it's my family, whether it's my friends, or whether it's people that I interact with that I've never met in my life. It's my job to know the environment in which I swim as a protective measure that I use to protect my own self. And I encourage you all to do the same. Even medieval England, prior to the split, just a very interesting part of history, very rich and dynamic and impactful part of history. Don't allow your lack of trust in people to thwart your outlook on life. It's not a bad thing to not fully trust people. You can't, a lot of times. And in certain circles in life, it's expected for you not to, friend. You've got to trust yourself. You've got to trust God. And the only way you trust yourself is by having a very eventful, action-packed life. Not action-packed full of irrelevant experiences, but full of rich experiences that build upon one another. And in them building upon one another, they allow you to build a strong internal structure within yourself so that you can stand up by yourself on your own 2 feet without needing to hold on to anyone, without needing to drop a name and say, oh, I know such and such. You won't need to do that. And most importantly, you need to embark upon the monumental journey of exploring life and leaning on God and looking for God in all of your walks. Don't just explore God and not pay attention to the beauty of God all around you. This is what makes life rich. is your exploration of God, of life, and looking for God while you're doing it. This is where the richness comes forth from. These are the gifts that keep on giving. These are the things that make everything purposeful. And they allow things to serve you in capacities that none other could. And it is with these two things combined that allow you a level of knowing of yourself, that give you the trust factor within you. You don't look for that in someone else. You look for it and you cultivate it within your own self, so that whoever comes before you, whether they are treacherous or not, you can keep them at the gate. You control their level of engagement with you. You protect yourself. This is my word for you today. Always looking to be useful. I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Be good to yourselves and be good to one another. Peace and love.